Hello, friends. I'm Kerry Pharr. Welcome to In Your Corner. I'm back again with my boxing buddies and that great film producer, Kenny Sailor's over there on the end. Jonathan Reed, a former boxing contender in the middleweight division. Don Hale, former boxing manager extraordinaire, took Frankie Randall out to fight Julio Cesar Chavez, who was 89-0 and beat him. Got paid big for that one. Keith McKnight, former heavyweight contender, and Jerome Coffey, one of the sweetest boxers. They call him Kid Coffey, fought, for the Bantamweight Championship of the world in Australia. Jerome, it's hard to win a fight in Australia.
Yeah, it's just pretty difficult when you go down under because they got so many fans that make sure that even when you're hitting the opponent, that it sounds like the opponent's hitting you. I remember some times when I made Jeff miss, and the crowd would roar, and I would think, he missed me. He missed. Did anybody see him miss me? So that part of it is exciting that they have so much of a following down there. Jeff was a guy that they love, and it was going to be hard to get in and out of there with a decision.
Jeff Finney. But, after your boxing career, you actually trained a world champion. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was blessed enough to make the transition in Las Vegas. And there was a fighter by the name of Scotty the Bulldog Olsen who was just kind of moving around out there. And we were close in weight. And the guys that he was sparring with were former world champions, and he was fighting for his life every day. And it's very difficult to learn how to transition when you're fighting for your life. Mm-hmm. You can learn how to fight for your life, but you can't learn how to actually get it done. And so I started to spar with him, and so I became his chief sparring partner first. And I taught him how to relax and how to pace himself and that sort of thing. And as we went along, he messed around and got himself in position for a world title shot, and we pulled it off.
Very good.
It's all right.
Scotty Olsen can fight.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think a lot of people don't understand is what he said, getting a fighter to relax and pace himself is not the easiest thing, and they got to learn that because that's not, even Frankie Randall, later in his career, you had to remind him continually throughout the fight, relax, relax.
Yes.
A lot of fighters just don't know how to do it.
That's a big step. When you learn how to do that, it takes your career, a little bit farther.
Well, it's even like most people watching television think that they can fight, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just like we're reinventing Kenny. For those of you that don't know, Kenny Sailor's over there is an award-winning film producer. And Kenny's on a journey to lose 200 pounds and become a boxer and show other people that you can do it too. And one of the simple things when you were working with him in the gym the other day, you were just saying, breathe.
Breathe. You got to breathe.
Because a lot of times people don't breathe.
Yeah, well, that's why one of the things I've learned real quickly over been the last couple of weeks. We've been doing at it. It's just simple things like the breathing. You don't think about it, but man, I realize how much I hold my breath when I'm out there. I'm like, and Keith is like, he makes me do little
arm
exercise.
raises.
Yeah, arm raises every time I don't, which is a lot. But and also the technique, because people always think, I could probably fight and all that. Man, it's so hard. I've already been telling my followers, follow my whole journey. I always tell them, I said, man, I've only been doing 2-minute rounds. And we're up to like 7 rounds. And man, I feel like death warmed over at the end of it. I'm just like, man, it takes so much energy and like the stamina and everything is just like, it's so crazy.
And you're not getting hit in those 7 rounds.
And I'm not getting hit. Yeah. I'm just standing around.
It's a whole different enchilada when you start getting hit. Tell people how they can follow you, Kenny.
Go to reinventingkenny.com. That leads to my social media pages. I have Instagram at reinventingkenny or on Facebook. Come follow along. I do daily ringside chats that are live streams, and people can interact and everything. So it's exciting. I always tell people I've got the biggest fan base, like weight-wise, literally.
Don, of course, you're real close to Floyd Mayweather, and he lived with you a couple of years when he was growing up. Who do you see out there today that you like now that Floyd's retired in the boxing biz?
The kid out of Omaha.
Bud.
Yeah, Bud.
Yeah.
Bud Crawford.
Bud Crawford.
Yeah.
I like Bud Crawford an awful lot. He can go, and I think right now I just think he's probably the best one out there.
Yeah, he's complete.
I haven't seen him. Two of my friends back when I was a young man that I trained with, Art and Dale Hernandez. Art was the NABF champion at middleweight. Those are the last two, and Ron Standard, the Council Bluffs Butcher, are the last guys I remember coming out of Omaha that could fight a little bit.
Yeah. This guy can fight.
But
he packs them in, too.
Nobody can overlook Canelo.
Canelo Alvarez.
Canelo Alvarez is probably one of the
Was he as good when he first started defensively as he is today? I mean, that guy's like Wilfredo Benitez now. He can make you miss.
Yeah. I think he grew a great deal in that Mayweather fight, and after that Mayweather fight, he became the man. After that fight, I think he's probably, aside from Bud, he's probably the baddest guy out there. I mean, guys are making great paydays fighting him, but they're not jumping up and down about having to have to. Because he's not the kind of guy you wake up and jump up and down about having to have to fight.
At one time, I did not think he was that good, but he just kept getting better and better and better.
Yeah, that's me. I think he learned the game fighting. He really learned it as he was going. Well, he turned pro at 15, right?
All of them, I shouldn't say all, but many of the Mexican nationals, start fighting very young. They don't have a huge pro career like Jerome, 200 fights, and amateur career. They start out, they learn in the pros.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
How about you, Jay Reed?
Do you not think a fighter can look at the blueprint that Mayweather used to beat Canelo and be like, I think I can do that. I can beat him if they follow Mayweather's blueprint. Do you think that it would be harder for another fighter to do the same thing?
I don't think anybody is Mayweather, because what's the AB? What was the guy's name? Adrian Broner.
Yeah.
He was as close to a guy trying to beat Floyd Mayweather as anybody, and then he realized that it doesn't work when you're trying to beat somebody else.
You've got to have Mayweather's skill set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And his mindset.
The mindset. You got to be smart, and there's not too many fighters that are as ring intellectual as Floyd is.
That's right. And his work ethic is second to none.
No one's going to outwork him. Floyd never is going to walk in a ring and you're going to be in better shape.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think a lot of people can try to fight like Floyd, but nobody can fight like Floyd.
No, I don't think so.
And because he picked that up so early. I mean, by the time he was, 10, 11 years old, he knew how to roll. He knew how to block punches with his shoulder. He knew how to not get hit. And Floyd will always tell you, I don't want to get hit.
You know what I like about him the most? About people they fall in love with the fact that he does the shoulder roll so well. The thing that I liked about him so much was that he knew when to abandon the shoulder roll, and he did abandon it immediately, because a lot of guys would go in and they know the shoulder roll is just about rhythm. So all you have to do is double a shot or triple a shot off the same hand, and you'll beat the shoulder roll, especially a heavy-handed guy. You roll the blocker shot, and then you rock back to catch the next, and the same shot comes in, and it breaks your rhythm.
When you talk about the shoulder roll, Floyd Sr. used the shoulder roll against Ray Leonard, and Ray Leonard beat him.
It didn't work.
Yeah. It didn't work against Sr. Against Ray Leonard. Yeah.
Leonard was throwing the double, triple right hand.
That's right.
In that fight too.
It's just a formula that you have to be able to produce, and of course Floyd would go immediately to both hands up, and that was what was smart about him. I think he knew when to abandon it and go to what was going to work.
I think a lot of people that haven't been in the ring to like we have, they think boxing is about who's the strongest or something to that nature. I was able to fight for a world championship against William Joppy, but
you were the strongest.
I had 7 days to get ready.
Yeah.
So although then, you know, I was training all the time, I was physically ready, but I wasn't mentally ready.
Amen.
That's it.
You know, you have to train your mind and your body when you're doing this thing.
That's right.
What do you guys think about Manny Pacquiao today? What's he got left?
Well, you know what? The thing that people keep missing about Manny is that there's something really special about the fact that Manny is a humanitarian. He's akin to Ali in terms of what he wants to do for his people. So every time I look at anything that he does, I'm always praying that everything works out for him. Sure, he's getting older. Sure, he's got wear and tear. And what people don't know is that Manny's been knocked out early in his career 2 or 3 times. And he's weathered it, and whatever he's had to do, he's done. And so, for me, I always wish him well. But when he beat Spence, wasn't it Spence?
No, he beat
Thurman.
Stevens.
No, it was
Keith Thurman.
Thurman. Now Thurman was a real guy.
Yeah, he's young.
No question.
And he beat him. You know, he literally beat him. And so with that in mind, you can't count him out because he throws punches in bunches, and he has an ability to go in and out and around like no other guy in the industry. So,
I tell people that Pacquiao is like a Duran or Leonard. They don't come along,
That's right.
you know, very much.
You know what's interesting? I did a video, Kenny, you'll find this interesting because you and I are internet guys and we post stuff online. I did a prediction between Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman on YouTube. I put the video up there, and I said there is going to come a time when I said if Manny has slowed down, this guy stands a chance. And you would not believe how those people from the Philippines were critical. You know, man, you don't know nothing. And I didn't say anything bad. But you know what's interesting? I put that thing up 5 or 6 weeks before the fight, and I had 78,000 views. And then I put another video up talking about how to box or something, and I'll get 25 views, and that one had 78,000 views. That's how popular he is.
They love him, and they should because he loves them.
He does a lot for them.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah.
He puts his money where his mouth is.
That's exactly right.
Sure.
And that's some of the things about Floyd too is people don't understand the things that he does in the community. I mean, Floyd don't like it whenever they start promoting it. You know, it's like he's not the one with the paying for the funeral for George Floyd. Floyd is not the one to put that out there. Some other people put that out there.
Right.
But Floyd does that because he wants to help people.
Yeah.
He's been feeding the homeless for a long time. For a long time.
But Don, you know, you've been in his home so many times because you and him are, you know, like you were his surrogate father when his dad was in prison. Tell us about all of the vehicles in the house and the stuff that he had. We're talking Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Floyd, he I don't even know how many. I've never seen now where he keeps them, but just at his house, you know, he'll have a Lamborghini, he'll have a McLaren, he'll have. He loves the the Rolls Royce. He'll have a couple of Rolls Royces there. He has 2 airplanes. You know where
jets?
Not plane. Yeah, oh yeah. These are two big jets. That he flies around the world in, and he goes all over flies all over the world. He still gets paid. To go to he told me the other day that he's going to get I don't know what $500,000 to spar for a few rounds someplace, and he's going to get $7 million for another sparring, where he's going to spar for like 10 rounds. And then he's still talking about fighting again. A couple guys, and I'll
don't think he'll ever fight Pacquiao again?
No, I don't think. Floyd is 50-0, and Floyd is never going to lose, and he's going to make sure he don't lose. But one of the things we were talking earlier about the mental part of it that I found very interesting. I was with him in his bedroom. It was after midnight, the night before he fought Ricky Hatton, and he had a TV on, and it was on HBO, and they're showing Ricky Hatton. And I said, well, there's Ricky Hatton. He says, I've never seen him fight. You've never seen him fight? No. He sits and he watches him for maybe 2 minutes. That's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I thought, most fighters are going to look their opponents and know. But Floyd says, I want to adjust when the bell rings. When I get in there, I'm going to adjust. Not with what they've done before, but what they're going to do now.
That's
Right.
So I found that very interesting part of Floyd's plan is he don't go and look at film before.
Yeah.
He looks in the fight and he says, I'm going to adjust what I got to do. But that's the intelligence he has that a lot of fighters can't do.
A lot of
you
mistakes.
saw it a lot when he fought Cotto, because Cotto was giving him trouble, and he changed fight patterns 2 or 3 times in that fight, and then that last time he blew him out.
DeMarcus Corley, same thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
It's just unreal how he can change, he
man.
can adjust. Yeah,
and then I
it's
found
crazy.
it
That's super
very
smart.
interesting. He said Ricky Hatton couldn't punch at all. Now that's what really surprised me. Is he called me the next day and he said he couldn't break an egg.
Yeah, because he couldn't hit him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He can't get hit.
He hit me, and I feel it, but he could touch Floyd.
Couldn't touch him.
No, I heard Floyd say in an interview one time, I forget who he was talking about, but he was saying that the fighter was a front runner. I was like, front runner? So in the interview, he was explaining, he said, yeah, man, he said, they'll be good for the first 5 or 6 rounds. After 5 or 6, I got him, he's done. Yeah. And then when he fought him, Floyd was moving, rocking his shoulders, the guy kept coming at him. And then, like after in the middle of the 5th round, on up, you can see the guy getting tired. And that's when Floyd sort of, I got him now.
Picked it up.
He started talking, he started walking to him because he knew the guy was a so-called, so to speak, front runner, and he wasn't going to have to worry about him anymore after the later round.
Exactly, with with McGregor. That's what Nate had told me when Nate Jones was training him, and he says, you wait and see, Don. Floyd's going to play with him in the first few rounds, and he's going to get tired. McGregor's going to get tired. He'll take care of him. So exactly what you're saying is exactly what he did against McGregor.
Sure.
That was such an easy fight.
Easy fight for
I
him.
knew when Floyd started going forward, because you never see Floyd go forward. When he started going forward, I knew this was an easy fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd like to go back in the archives and do a little history here. Jerome probably has the richest history of any of us at this table. Jerome, you were in the gym with Clint Jackson, and Clint had the amazing talent, won all of these national championships with the co-captain of the 1976 Olympic team. And then, he was your coach as an amateur, but he had this illustrious record. And all of those guys, 5 guys won gold in 76, and Clint didn't win gold. And he decided to stay amateur for another 3-4 years. Don't you think that was the biggest mistake he made?
Well, the amateur boxing ultimately ran him out of the amateurs, and they had a way of doing it. And so when they're ready for you to go, and you fight a fight and it's close, you don't get the decision anymore, and that's them telling you, "I see you." And that's what happened with Clint. He stayed 3 years too long, and then when they did finally run him out, he was no longer as effective in the transitionary period and going into the pros. Early, he'd knock out most of those guys because if they didn't have his level of ability, the first mistake they made, he'd hit them with something and they'd come get him because you just couldn't stand up under his pop. He knew how to knock you out, and that was the thing that he did well. But just as soon as he fought guys who weathered the storm, and it's kind of like what you guys were talking about, front runners. Clint would start a fight, and if you were a front runner, if you could survive when he decided to start fighting back, then just maybe you put enough rounds in the bank and save yourself. But that was the part of boxing that a lot of people miss. If you can't be able to weather the storm, and Clint ultimately he was so old when he turned pro, those long distance rounds, when he got to 8, 9, 10, you hit that wall, and you'll see it in all fighters as they get too old. They'll hit that wall, and no longer can they recover. They can't find that extra win, or they can't find enough peace to breathe through the fight and that sort of thing, and that's what happened to him.
Well, Clint probably has one of the saddest stories of any boxer that we've ever known. I mean, he went back to Evergreen, Alabama, and took a local banker there and tied him to a tree and robbed him or held him ransom for $10,000.
Yep, had him write a check.
And then he's been doing prison. I mean, geez, Jerome, what is it, 30 years now he's been in prison?
Closer to 40.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
I mean, I owned a health club here in Nashville. Actually, the day he turned pro, he'd flown to New York, and I think it was on NBC. He'd flown back to Atlanta, and I was coming back from Mobile, and he and I sat next to each other on the plane back to Nashville from Atlanta. But, you know, he'd turned pro, and it was like you say, it was so late, but he had this illustrious career, and then he robs this guy and ends up, I mean, I had a health club in town. I remember him coming over and putting his hand in the whirlpool. He had hurt his hand, you know, and that doesn't seem like 40 years ago.
Yeah, I know. You know, not to change the subject, but Ray Leonard was a guy for me that I found and still even today think is probably one of the most exciting guys that I met throughout my career, because I remember I was getting ready to fight a guy that was a national champion that had traveled with them a bit. And back then when you were 16 years old, like Floyd, you had to fight everybody. So if you were 16 and the guy was 25, you had to fight him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was fighting one of those guys, and so Ray asked me, he said, so who are you fighting? I told him. And he said to me, he said, well, have you ever fought him? I said, yeah. He said, so how did you do? I said, well, Ray, the guy is strong, man. I got to get past that part of it. So he looked at me, and I was waiting on him to tell me, you know, what to do. He said, so don't get hit.
Yeah. See, I mean, that's the background that Jerome Colby has. Sugar Ray Leonard is telling him how to fight a fight.
Yeah.
I mean, and Jerome, you could sit here and it could be Bernard Hopkins, it could be Sugar Ray Leonard, it could be Michael Spinks, it could be, you know, Michael McCallum. You knew all them guys, and all them guys knew you because you were in all those tournaments with all those guys.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. I was able to see all of that 76 crew. So when they all turned pro, I figured, okay, now it's my time to make the next Olympics. And so I started to win my national titles, and I put 5 in a row together. And then, of course, we got caught up in the Olympic boycott. But I thought that was probably the best time of my life, because I never loved boxing as much as I did when I was an amateur. When I turned pro, it was a business. But in the amateurs, I got to ball my fists up and see the world, and it just doesn't
we
get
did
better.
too. I mean, geez, I mean, we're just country boys, and I mean, I've been on every continent. I mean, South America, North America, Hawaii, Europe.
Yes.
You know, everywhere. Kenny, you've heard these stories. What does all of this say to you with all of these rich boxing stories? You've been on the outside, and now you're kind of in here looking at it with us.
Well, for one, I need to not get hit.
That's
the thing. No, it's amazing the history and the hearing about it all, and it actually helps me when I'm getting in here. It puts context into all these things that Kerry and Keith always go over. And like I said, I hope you guys come join me sometime in training sometimes too, because I love the history. I love hearing the stories, and you guys lived through it all. But also, it's amazing. Yeah, it's like how cool it is, yo. It's an awesome thing.
Well, let's talk about, Jerome's talking about an exciting time. I think even though I traveled with Keith and we went to some marvelous places, he and I would probably still admit was the best trip we ever had was when we went with Ken Atkin, and we were talking about Harold Smith, right?
Yep.
That had promoted that fight with Tommy Hearns, and we went to Hawaii. And
awesome.
So Harold, I got to know him. He was from Alabama originally. He said, Kerry, when you come out here, bring me a country ham. And so I took him a country ham. And he rented a van. We got to Hawaii. And we would run off with the van. And he'd say, Kerry, I need to take Hearns. So I would go drive Tommy Hearns and Milton McCrory and all those guys to the gym. And that was just, I mean, we had a free trip.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We had a free trip to
I was
Hawaii.
18, I think.
Yeah.
I was 17, 18.
Well, you were Ken.
And got paid to
you
go
were,
to
You
Hawaii.
were Ken's sparring partner because you
that
were
was great.
the closest we could get to imitating Tommy Hearns.
Right. And Kid did well for himself in that fight.
Yeah, he
did really good.
He got cut in the third round, but up that time. Yeah.
Got to meet, like you say, Milton McCrory, Tommy Hearns.
All those guys.
Tommy Hearns actually from Tennessee, where he's born.
He was born in Memphis originally.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Wow. And I think I've told on your show before how one of my thrills was Frankie Randall was fighting in Monterrey, Mexico, and I got to know Emmanuel Stewart, who I lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he was from Detroit. And we got to talking, and we went to dinner, and he said, "Come on back to our room, Don." And I'm sitting for 2 hours with Emmanuel Stewart and Tommy Hearns talking boxing.
Yeah.
Now, for somebody that hadn't been in the sport that long, I mean, this.
You'd have paid to have done that,
I mean,
Yeah.
anybody.
That's
I mean,
royalty.
there's people who would have paid, tens of thousands of dollars for that 2 hours. And I'm sitting there with these people, and I'm just in amazed as I walk out.
Keith got to train in the gym with him, man. Those were awesome experiences.
Sure, they were. And to be with Don King, and to actually negotiate with Don King. And I learned.
Did you stand a chance?
I learned real fast that when you started negotiating, he's already got a royal flush, and now then you're playing your cards.
Yeah, you're behind that already.
Fellas, I want to thank you for being on the program. It's been such an honor and a pleasure. And we did 3 shows together, and we're doing live together, and I hope we can still connect and do some things. And friends, I want to thank you for watching the program today. And as bad as these dudes were, I mean, these guys fought for world titles, beat world champions, and traveled the world. None of us are anything without Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And I don't care how bad you are, one of these days you're going to have to meet your Maker. And when you meet your Maker, you want to make sure that your sins have been washed away. I want to tell you that Jesus Christ died, was buried, and rose again, and he died to save you, and he died to save me from our sins. And friend, you can have your sins washed away today simply by admitting to Jesus Christ that you're a sinner. Lord, I'm a sinner. Lord, I thank you for dying on the cross and saving me. And Lord, I ask you to come into my heart and save me. And friend, when you do that, he will. Mm-hmm. And if you ask the Lord into your heart, I want you to contact us at the number below or email us. Our website is on the screen below, and contact us and let us know what's going on in your life. Thank you so much for watching the program today. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week on the next edition of In Your Corner. Friends, we hear from so many people who have family members, friends, loved ones who are battling addiction. And I want to invite you to give them the gift of life. In Your Corner Ministries has developed Addiction Knockout, a recovery program that someone can take on their very own. We offer this program absolutely free. All you've got to do is go to our website, inyourcorner.info, or addictionknockout.com. If you want a physical copy of the book, you can buy it at our website. Buy as many copies as you need. It's also available at Amazon.com. So, addictionknockout.com or inyourcorner.info. Thank you, my friend.